Time, oh time, please won't you tell all the stories you know so well. Time, oh time, please won't you say the stories of yesterday right now. Time, oh time, oh time, oh time. Time, oh time. Time, oh time, please won't you tell all the stories you know so Voices crying in the wilderness, come at you, come at you. Voices crying in the wilderness, come at you, my people. Voices crying in the wilderness. Voices crying in the wilderness. Hey, we are the Lord. Everybody the people down. Everybody will be exalted. And the crooked will be made straight. That day. Time, oh time, please won't you tell me all the stories you know so well. Time, oh time, please won't you say the stories of yesterday right now. Time, oh time, oh time, oh time. Time, oh time. Time, oh time, please won't you
By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away required of us a song. They that carried us captive required of us mirth, saying, sing unto us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land, the land of the beast, oh, the land of man. Revelation 18:1, the rising of the sun, glories throughout the land. How long shall we serve man? If I ever forget thee, Jerusalem, chief joy. Let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Jerusalem, you are the apple of my eye. You are the passages of life from the beginning. Help us all to understand that you will stand forever. Revelation 18:1, the rising of the sun goes throughout the land. How long shall we serve no longer this land. Jerusalem, oh Father, deliver us out of Babylon. Shall return out of this land. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. Away required of us a song. They that carried us captive required of us mirth. Sing unto us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the long song in a strange land? How shall we sing? Welcome, everybody. Hey, that camera angle doesn't look very good. Hey, let's just adjust that. Welcome, everybody, to another live session. I would like, of course, to do these live sessions a bit more predictable as to what time I'm doing it. But the thing is, like, I'm just, there's just a whole lot going on. And I literally just got back from a huge rally. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing these videos. And like I said, after this year, I'm just going to be reassessing what really works and how to move forward in the new year. Because I feel like there's a whole lot more that I can do that we can actually engage each other and actually just really move this community forward. And I like the reasoning sessions, all of that stuff, it's still coming through. And I'm still going to be sharing a lot of that stuff. But I just think that a reasoning sesh every day just kind of steals from that, the ability to put other inspiration to use. So, by no means I will stop sharing this message. Whatever YouTube is doing with their new guidelines, it doesn't really matter because we have other platforms. This is not going away. People are really standing up. People are really taking that initiative now. And we are exposing, where we've been for all this time, especially talking about the land of the beast, what has been going on, like I say, for generations. All of that stuff is being pushed to the surface right now, and we're being basically forced to make a decision. You know, which way are we going to go? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have already made up their mind to stay asleep, but that shouldn't deter us. That shouldn't keep us from moving forward. And really, the acceleration has been so strong, and we have made so much progress, and the momentum is just building and building, that really there's no time left to awaken the sheep. You know, we got to awaken those lions. We got to stand up. And like I say, well, actually, it's Pastor Art that says, eat those hyenas for breakfast. We're literally eating hyenas for breakfast. Even though we're vegan, but we're still eating hyenas for breakfast. And talking about hyenas, we're going to be talking about the beast today. The beast of the apocalypse, or the beast in Revelation. You know what? Maybe I'm just going to read straight from the screen here, because that way you guys, I can actually let you guys follow instead of like reading 10 paragraphs before realizing that it's not, that I've left you guys behind. So let's do that. Should I back up a bit? I mean, Revelation 13 is where we really talk about the beast, but you know what? Let's do this. Give me 1 second here, and we're actually going to read a bit of the backstory, because, well, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's just see how this stuff unfolds. All right, let's get settled in here. All right. So yeah, let's just begin and talk about what comes up, because there's a whole lot that I could probably cross-reference and talk about as well. But let's just stick to the apocalypse, at least as we open here, and see what parallels we can see and what parallels we can talk about. Is this camera angle okay? There we go. That's a bit better. That's a bit better. So it starts off. I'm gonna read on the screen, guys. And I stood. This is Yohanan, or John. I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. I'll leave that for later. Talking about the 7 heads, 10 horns, and all of that stuff. Yeah. Oh, man. Let's leave this stuff. Well, actually, you know what? Before we get really deep, we're going to have to cover the background of this thing. Let's just talk about this. So it goes on to say, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Take note of those 3 animals. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, we are talking about the beast. Now, the beast is just a fancy King James term that literally means animal. But it is like a vicious kind of like a ravenous animal, I guess you could say. But it doesn't specify that. It just means an animal, so it doesn't have the soul of a man. And this man ultimately doesn't have the soul of a man. I covered that, I think, in one of my previous live sessions where I talk about cloning and how that affects the difference between like body, soul, and spirit. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that it is a clone, but it just seems like the way cloning works out, it's like a big possibility. Let's just leave it at that. I won't speculate here. But parallel to what we just saw here, let's jump to the vision Daniel had, chapter 7. And I'm just going to cover a bit of back story here. I won't get too much into detail because I do want to talk about the beast and how this ties into the system that we're living in. So, yeah, there's actually a whole bunch here that I can talk about. We are going to be reading the book of Daniel because Daniel does tie so much of this together. But let's start here. In the first year, well, let's just start on verse 2. I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from another, from one from another. Okay, here we go. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So here we have the lion, and it's talking about the eagle's wings, but then it lost those wings, and it turned this lion into a man by giving it a heart of a man. Okay. We'll see if we get back to that, because that does have a point to talk about the beast and how this beast is a man. But anyway, let's just cover some ground here. Okay, I'll just read from right here. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So right there we have the lion, the bear, and the leopard, which, boom, going back to Revelation, the leopard, feet like a bear, and the mouth was like the mouth of a lion. And he got his power from the dragon, which previous chapter does talk about a bit. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns. And it's talking about devouring, the male child. And this big war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Take note of this phrase right here that says deceives the whole world. Now, I will have to actually find the reference for this. Just give me 1 second here. I know it's either Revelation 18 or, Revelation 18. Here we go. Boom. Here it says, For by your sorceries were all nations deceived. Now, let's bring up the actual text here. In the Greek, this word sorceries is pharmakeia. And if we go down to the interlinear, right here, it's down here, pharmakeia is translated sorceries, but as you could probably tell, this word bears a semblance to another word we have in English. The use of it or administering of drugs. When we think of sorcery, we generally thinking, someone locked up in a dark room casting spells or summoning or something of that nature. And yes, it can be associated with potions, but ultimately this is what it's talking about. The use of drugs, sorcery, magical arts, and this kind of stuff in relation to poisoning. And of course, where we get our word pharmacy from. I'm just going to leave that hanging. You guys can infer from that. You guys are smart. You guys know what's up. Anyway, let's go back. I really got to stay on point here because ultimately there's a lot to talk about here. And literally, I didn't even plan on singing this song. I mean, talking about this, singing the song too, because I just got back from the rally, and today at the cave we sang, the old Rastafarian version, which a lot of people know from Boney M, the group, by the rivers of Babylon. Of course, I sang the one by David Koresh. His is a bit more. It puts these other scriptures into context. The Boney M version, originally it was an old Rastafarian song. It talks about the psalm, but it doesn't put it into this kind of context, talking about when they're exiled, when the children of Israel were exiled into Babylon. They're literally in the land of the beast, and the Babylonians came up to them. Actually, we can just cover the psalm really quickly. It's a short one. They said, sing us the song of Zion. And they said, how can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? When, actually, you know what? I'll just read it from up here. Boom. Yeah, so it's basically just word for word like the song says. We sat down by the rivers of Babylon and wept when we remembered Zion. We remembered where we were exiled from. Or, yeah, I guess that's right. Exiled from. Because now they're in Babylon. They were originally in Jerusalem. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing Yahweh's song in a strange land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. And then it talks about some more stuff. O daughter of Babylon, who is to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewards you as you have served us. This is talking about Yahweh here. Justice, what you put out is what you get back. That infinite cycle of isness, cause and effect, existence in past, present, future, and outside of time, in eternity, the self-existing, the self-generating, the generations of Yahweh Elohim. Happy shall he be that rewards you as you have served us. Happy shall he be that takes and dashes your little ones against the stones. Wow, that sounds pretty harsh, but that's exactly what the Babylonians did to the children of Judah. And this is talking about that closing of the cycle of justice. We mustn't get caught up in a violent paradigm here. But let's go back to the book of Daniel, where we see the first beast in chapter 7, was a lion. The second was a bear. The third was a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings, of course. And then the fourth one, it talks about just a beast unlike any other. But those are stages, and those parallel the interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream in chapter 2. So when we go to chapter 2, we see right about here. Yeah, right here. He saw a great image. This great image, talking about like a statue of a man, as we find out, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible or frightful, or just, it took the viewer, which was the king, aback, and it was overwhelming. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Now this parallels to what Daniel saw in chapter 7. When we go to chapter 7, we actually see something paralleled right here. His feet, part of iron and part of clay. And the feet, of course, have 10 toes. When we go to... Oh, where are you? Daniel 7. Okay, let's just do it this way then. When we go to Daniel 7, we find out that... here we go. The fourth beast dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. So it's talking about a beast that is unlike any other that he can compare it to. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns, parallel to those 10 toes. We'll get back to chapter 7, but as we can see in the interpretation now, he says, "You, O king, are a king of kings." Daniel talking to Nebuchadnezzar. "For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold." So he's talking about the kingdom. He's talking about the king. And the finesse, that gold has over these other metals. And Daniel is an alchemical book. All of the symbols of alchemy are actually taken out of the book of Daniel. This is the origin of all those symbols. And it's ironic that churchgoers don't want nothing to do with alchemy. But, that's a subject for a whole other... I could probably do a series on the alchemy in Daniel, just because people don't understand these symbols in the present time. Explaining it is a bit of a task. But anyway, after you, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another king, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. When we see who conquered the Neo-Babylonian Empire, that was Koresh, or Cyrus, as he's known in English, the king of the Achaemenid Empire, which was Persian, ultimately Persia and Media, which functioned as a unit, and that became the Achaemenid Empire. And then Greece, the kingdom of brass. The kingdom of brass from Greece, of course, in chapter 7, the bear, which corresponds to the second beast, has 3 ribs. Now these refer to the 3 kingdoms of Persia, Lydia, and Anatolia, I believe. You know what? I don't want to make any mistakes giving out this information, so let's just double check. Boom. Ah, nice. I got the picture here. Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. Okay, I was wrong. Not Anatolia, guys. See, this is why you gotta vet your information. And the third kingdom of brass. So this is the brass is his belly and his thighs, starting out with Alexander the Great murderer. And then, of course, it was divided by his generals. You have four generals, which I won't torment you with me trying to pronounce their names. But those 4 generals talk about the 4 heads of the leopard, the 4 wings of the leopard. Ultimately, it came down for the Israelites, or the Yehudim, who returned back to the Persian satrapy of Yehud under Cyrus and then Artaxerxes, and that whole thing with Ezra, Nehemiah, all that stuff. It became a battle between the king of the north and the king of the south, which is spoken of in Daniel 11 and 12. And, Daniel 11 and 12. Those were the Seleucids and the Ptolemies. Seleucids based in Syria, and the Ptolemies based in Egypt. I won't get really too far into that because there's a whole lot I want to cover, guys. But those are the 2 thighs, right? But ultimately, the kingdom was divided by his 4 generals. But he had the control over all the earth at the time. That earth, of course, there were people living elsewhere, but that empire that took over all of that stuff. And ultimately, then it was divided. But then the 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron. This is talking about the Roman Empire. For as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these other metals, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Now, when we go back to Daniel 7, he's talking about this beast that has teeth of iron. But then check it out. He says, whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Now, we're talking about those 10 here. And there's just one point that I want to make evident here. No, it's got to be down here. It's got to be down here. Yeah. Those 10 are compromised from the original gold, but all throughout, notice that it's metal. And when you're talking alchemy, you're talking about transmutation. So we know, of course, from the periodic table of elements that metals are different, and there's no possible way to transmutate given current chemistry. But here's the thing. All of those metals are basically a continuation of the same empire, but just changing the characteristic a bit. Okay, so this beast is the same beast, although there are 4 beasts in Daniel 7. We realize that this is the same beast that continues on to our present day. And when we look at this right here, we see that it says, they're talking about the iron mixed with miry clay, the 10 toes, the feet. It says, they, who's they? Shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. While the seed of men, Adam, man of the red earth, is talking about clay. So who is this metal that mingles themselves with the seed of men? Are we talking about the elite bloodlines? They claim that they have a lineage that grants them the authority to rule by divine right. Nonetheless, let's continue on. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. This is not iron ore. This is literally like clay, and then you try and pour in iron or whatever. This is not talking about iron ore. All throughout, it's refined metal. But then we come to this mixing, this compromise. And of course, this happens in the toes. Part of iron, part of clay. The 10 toes. So let's jump back to Daniel 7 before we go back to the apocalypse. And let's see what it says about the 10 here. It mentioned already that it had 10 horns. This beast had 10 horns. So Daniel considered the 10 horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. So out of those 10, 3 fall before this new little one. Well, let's finish this verse. And it says, behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So we see that this horn is different than the rest, but it's still a horn. Now, what happened in history? Let's talk about this. The fall of the Roman Empire. When Rome fell, it's basically like those 2 legs of iron. We have the 2 factions between Byzantium, or Constantinople, as it was renamed, and, of course, Rome in Italy. When that fell, it became compromised, and we have 10 European kingdoms that... Let's bring this on the screen. Can we do this? Can we do this? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, check it out. Boom. This is very important. Don't miss it. Oh, is that on the screen here? Whoa, no. Okay, let's do this. So these are the 10 kingdoms. All right, let's. These are 10 kingdoms right here. And out of these 10, 3 of them fell. If I'm correct, it's the Vandals, the Heruli, and the Lombards. Did I write this down? I wrote this down somewhere else. But anyway, no, we gotta vet this information, guys. I wrote it down. Oh, let me get it. Ooh. These are all my notes. And you can see, I write pretty small. But, ooh, too many fingers in the text. Okay, chapter 7. Good. Oh, boy. Is it here? Anyway, 3 of these kingdoms fell, and the other 7 were basically absolved, and what was pagan Rome became papal Rome. Papal Rome is the little horn. Of all the pages that's missing. There we go. There you are. The Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. Yeah, I was right. So that is what fell. And this as well. Those fell. The Heruli, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. And when they fell, these kingdoms were... Is absolved the right word? Absolved? It's not absolved, but it's assimilated, basically, into the papal Rome. Pagan Rome became papal Rome, and that is this this horn, the little horn, which was, you know, eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Well, we have all the papal bulls, and we have his agents everywhere, you know, making sure that the entire earth is under that kind of dominion. I did cover this once before, but I am just going to cover this briefly here, because it's very important to know what was said by this office. Because it's not just one guy, right? It's not just one guy. It's the whole system. This is the one. It's the whole system that basically perpetuates that office. So every time there's a new guy that comes in, he's just fulfilling the same role. And that office never dies. The guys die. They have different people. But that office is a one goal. And ultimately, if you really want my opinion, there's non-physical that's has an agenda that they're just assuming. Once they get into that office, they basically sold their souls, so they have no decision and they have no anything. Anyway, so let's see what the originator of the Trinium, which basically lays claim to all the property of the world, all the land, so like all the physical assets of the world, all the land of the world, and all the souls of the earth. This is the guy that started it all. It's Boniface the 8th. Yeah, get this. Boniface means do-gooder. Boni, good, bon, and face, to do. Do-gooder. Yeah, and he was... Dante Alighieri gave him the bottommost chamber in hell for what he did. And you're going to see what he did with his papal bull, Unum Sanctum, which was signed in November of 1302. Basically laying claim to all the world. This is what he said, the Roman pontiff, which is the office of the Pope, judges all men, but is judged by no one. We declare, assert, define, and pronounce to be subject to the Roman pontiff is to every human creature altogether necessary for salvation. That which was spoken of Christ, and then he quotes, "Thou hast subdued all things under his feet," end quote, may well seem verified in me. I have the authority of the King of Kings. I am all in all and above all, so that God himself and I, the vicar of God, have but one consistory, and I am able to do almost all that God can do. What therefore can you make of me but God? And it's the biggest lie, the best lie, if, by hyperbole, there's a way of saying that at least. The best lie that Satan has ever come up with is convincing the world that he is God, that this office stands as the spokesperson of God. And right here we have a mouth speaking great things. Anyway, that's a bit of background, and that's the system that runs the world. You know, it's nothing new. It was hidden from us, and now it's all in the open, and we can make a decision on which side of history we want to be on. Back to the apocalypse, though, and I won't be able to get into too much detail into predicting future events with this, and I do believe that gets a bit messy, because it's not about future events, it's about current events, and it's about this same institution that's been carrying on for ages upon ages upon ages, generations. They've raped and sodomized and pillaged our inheritance. What they owe us in our present day is not just from our own trust fund, it's from those that have preceded us. It's an inheritance that has spanned generations. Everything they've stolen from our ancestors literally is owing to us. It's time we reclaim our birthright. Because, they make this trust out when you're born, and they say, well, they're incompetent. They don't know how to handle this trust, so we're going to handle it for them. They step in as the trustee, and until you reclaim your sovereignty, until you, dissolve that straw man, they're running the show for you. So it does take a bit of learning, stepping into that sovereignty, learning competency, and saying, nah, I'm the beneficiary of this trust, and your time's up. I'm reclaiming my birthright. I won't get into that in this episode, but I've already shared enough. Just reclaiming dominion. That's what we're waking up to. Reclaiming dominion. Now, talking about this beast, he has 7 heads, okay? 7 heads? G7? He has his power given to him by the dragon. Now, in Revelation 12 and in Revelation 19, it says that the dragon, it says that old serpent, which is the dragon, which is the old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan. Fourfold. I talked about that in another reasoning session, the 4 stages of every attack, and these are the 4 levels of deceit that the nations, or anything, awareness itself goes through when it's pulled away from source and manipulated in a paradigm of fear. And like it says in Revelation 18, like we saw, all the nations are deceived by your pharmakeia. What's been going on in the world today? Let's continue. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Another inference that might be a clone, because, you just clone and, oh, yeah, okay. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Who is able to make war with him? All right? Talking about that same thing, like the beast. It's a beast. The dragon gave power unto the beast. They worship the beast. Who's like unto the beast? It's talking, this guy has no regard for anything. And actually, it says that. We'll get to that, actually. But it just says here, there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. The same thing that Boniface said. It's like, what else can you make of me except that I am God? This is the haughtiness of their pride. They just say, you know what, nobody's challenged our papal bulls. Nobody's challenged Unum Sanctum. Have you challenged them? Well, until you challenge them, then you reclaim your own straw man. But they've sealed this with blood, literally written on human skin, because the pictures you find of the papal bulls, they're not the original. They're locked, sealed in the vaults of the Vatican. And it's even worse than human skin, because if people were able to look and actually analyze these things, they'd realize that it was written on skin of human children. That's, what they do to human children. I mean, come on. That's no secret. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. He made war with the saints to overcome them, over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Man, this is what colonialism is, right? The church sent its Jesuits everywhere. Guys, I come from Portuguese India, okay? I was just talking to somebody at the rally today, and this guy, he's from Portugal, and he says, the one thing that he's ashamed of is that his country, when the Knights Templars and all of that stuff happened, Portugal founded, it was in Portugal, Spain, Portugal, Ignatius de Loyola started this Order of Jesus as a disguise to say we're supporting Jesus, but it's exactly opposite what they do. In fact, they take oaths to say that if, whatever means necessary to kill and to destroy and to just manipulate and literally anything. Man, I have it all here. To get the actual verbatim quote of their oaths. But I have so much information here that I'd really love to share this all with you guys in the allotted time that we have. I just love to get into this stuff. And I wasn't even planning on this. I was just planning on reading Revelation 13 today. But this stuff is like intense, and I can't go forward without literally cross-referencing so much, guys. These are old school books they're out of print now. Like, you can probably still get them, but it is pretty hard to get these this stuff just because it's yeah, well, you can tell who's fighting it. Like, you can see right here, here's a chart, and you can see the Jesuits are under the Vatican Jesuits, and then under that you have all of these: the Illuminati, Club of Rome, Council of Foreign Relations, the Opus Dei, International Bankers, the Masons, the Mafioso, which is the criminal arm of the Vatican. Sorry, I forget this. And, of course, the New Age movement and all that other stuff, which is just controlled opposition. Controlled opposition, guys. And these guys, they don't settle for anything. Like, they take things to the extreme, and they get it done by violence if necessary. If I can find that quote really quick, I'm just going to jump to that. But there's so much in these. Oh man, so much in these books. And these books were printed in the 80s. I believe. Let's have a look here. When was this book printed? 1981. That was a couple years before my time. And you know what? It's even more relevant than ever before. Ignatius de Loyola, yeah. He was the guy that did all of this stuff, set it all up. But man, I know it's here, but if I don't find it, it's all good. Because honestly, this is what the whole system of, what's the word? Colonialism was set up to do. And this is the other beast, the prophet, which we can get into that later. And it kind of altogether ties into this, but we really got to know that, it's controlled opposition. Here we have, talking about the Salem trials. They put to death the fake witches, or people that were accused of heresy, but actually it was the real Satanists, Jesuits, whatever you want to call them, behind the show, getting rid of their opposition. And they play on that really strongly in the present world, the Wiccans and all of that stuff. But you know what? It's all controlled opposition. It's all made to do the same exact thing. If I don't find the oath right away, I'm not going to bother looking for it too much. But basically, it's like word for word. Just like do whatever you have to do to, get it done. And this is the Jesuit oath. This guy, like, they tried to kill him like half a dozen times. The guy that wrote this stuff. And that's why I'm constantly licking my fingers, is because these pages are so old that this kind of information is heavily censored. You won't find this online anymore. Like, it's amazing that it was even published back then, but this was a private publisher that put this out. And they came against these guys pretty heavy too. Mind you, a lot of the stuff, it opens the door to argument because they're so controversial in many things. But you know what? Now, like 40 years later, like, it's just altogether like coming to pass. But anyway, we're talking about the beast, and we're talking about how they basically run the world and what we find ourselves in. This same empire, like Daniel 2, the statue, the metal, it's just morphed. But those, 10, 13, then the papal Rome, like, you can see that it's all fit together. It's all fit together in this sort of new... yeah, we're good. Okay. I just gotta make sure this is still working. It all fits together in this new kind of modern day system. It's like the Inquisition. Like we were talking today. They started the Inquisition. They ran the whole thing. And they said, you know what? We're gonna get rid of all the opposition. All of it. And, the office of the Inquisition never went away. It's basically the same... Is this it? It's basically the judicial system and all that legalese and everything. Yeah. And that's why I'm talking about reclaiming your sovereignty. That's what it all comes down to. That's what it all comes down to, because then they don't have control over you. And you've literally, like it says in Revelation, well, it says it a couple times, but the real time it says it, I believe, is in Revelation 18. It says, "Come out of her, my people." Well, actually, no. Right here. The three angels' message. Well, this kind of says it, but let's go to Revelation 18. Where it says, "Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues." Again, talking about Psalm 137, when he says, "Happy is the one that dashes your little ones against the rocks," it's because that justice has to come. That cycle has to close. Eventually, they will get what's coming to them. Sorry for flipping these pages like this, but I kind of want to show you guys that. That justice is coming, so you don't want to be there when the actual justice is served. You got to be out of that system, because, you know, you're saving up your whole life with your measly day-to-day job, your money. You know, nobody works for $1 billion. Just look at, you know, some of these. I won't take names, but you can figure out what's happened. Aha! I have found it. Now, this is a ceremony of induction and extreme oath of the Jesuits, given to a Jesuit of minor rank when he is to be elevated to a position of command. Take notes. Now the superior speaks and says, "My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler, or a phony who acts like he's on your side, but he really isn't, among the Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and to be a spy even among your own brethren. To believe no man, to trust no man, among the reformers, to be a reformer." The Reformation, the Protestants, so on. "Among the Huguenots, or the French Protestants, to be a Huguenot. Among the Calvinists, to be a Calvinist. Among the Protestants, those who protest and disagree with the Roman Catholic institution, obviously, generally to be a Protestant. And obtaining their confidence, to seek even to preach from their pulpits, and to denounce with all the vehemence in your nature our holy religion and the Pope, just to gain sides." Listen to what goes on. "And even to descend," now these are the superior's words, okay? "So low as to become a Jew among the Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope. You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in communities, provinces, and countries that were independent and prosperous." Man, we're seeing that in our world, aren't we? Bricks dropped off at... Anyway, "cultivating the arts and the sciences, and enjoying the blessings of peace, to take sides with the combatants, and to act secretly in concert with your brother Jesuit, who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that with which you might be connected, only that the church might be the gainer in the end, in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means." It goes on. "You have been taught your duty as a spy to gather all statistics, facts, and information in your power from every source, to integrate yourself into the confidence of the family circle of Protestants and heretics of every class and character, as well as that of the merchant, the banker, the lawyer, among the schools and universities, in parliaments and legislatures, and in the judiciaries and councils of state, and to be all things to all men, for the Pope's sake, whose servants we are unto death. You have received all your instructions here, 2-4 as a novice, a neophyte, and have served as a coadjutor, confessor, and priest. So as you know, a novice, a neophyte, and then a coadjutor is basically a helper. But you have not yet been invested with all that is necessary to command in the army of Loyola in the service of the Pope. Loyola being Ignatius de Loyola, which is the guy that founded the order of the Jesuits. You must serve the proper time as the instrument and executioner as directed by your superiors, for none can command here who has not consecrated his labors with the blood of the heretic. For, quote, definitely taken out of context here, without the shedding of blood no man can be saved, end quote. That's from the epistle to the Hebrews, by the way. And it's not talking about that at all, but that's how they use it. Therefore, to fit yourself for your work and make your own salvation sure, you will, in addition to your former oath of obedience to your order and allegiance to the Pope, repeat after me. I'm going to finish with this, guys. I'm going to finish with this because this is some pretty heavy stuff, but man. All right. Are you ready? I, blank, now in the presence of Almighty God, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Blessed Michael, the Archangel, the Blessed Saint John the Baptist, the Holy Apostles, Saint Peter and Saint Paul, and all the saints and sacred hosts of heaven. Okay, let's skip a bit here. I furthermore promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do. Okay, moving on. To extirpate. God, you gotta love that Latin, don't you? To extirpate and exterminate. Extirpate, to pull out, and exterminate, to get rid of them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the walls. Psalm 137. In order to annihilate forever their execrable race. Before I continue, I gotta say that when it says in Psalm 137, blessed is he that dashes the heads of your little ones against the rocks, that happened. And we read that in the oracles of Nahum when Assyria fell. It's like there's no room for the corpses. The chariots are jostling in the streets. There's corpses everywhere. You know, vengeance is paid, okay? We have to remember, vengeance is paid. So whatever they're doing, vengeance is paid. But this is something that, you know, we've been subjected to since before the Inquisition, since Unum Sanctum, and even before that. But continuing on with this oath, guys, that when the same cannot be done openly, talking about this annihilation, I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so to do, by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. Like I said, posing as the Society of Jesus, but really, yeah, all of this done in the name of Almighty God. But you know what? There's no way that the Roman Catholic system can be called Christian. And of course, Jesus, Yeshua, the Nazarene, faced another deadly religious crowd in Jerusalem before his crucifixion. And, they were out and about in the streets, doing all their rituals and everything. But when Yeshua saw them, he called them hypocrites. He pointed out what they were doing, sitting in the seat of Moses, not entering in, but not letting anybody else enter either. And yeah, when they do take the oath, guys, this is what they do. They hold the dagger to their heart. That's where and of course the crucifix, major sign of the order of the Jesuits. Basically, they would shove the crucifix in the conquered faces of the, wherever they were colonializing, colonoscopies, like basically sodomizing, right? That's colonial, like it's the same root, guys. And if you didn't kiss the cross, man, they have a sword in the other hand. That is the land of the beast, and it runs the whole world. It's not something that will happen. It might come out into the open, and without the mark you can't buy or sell, but you already can't buy or sell without their mark. You already can't buy or sell without their mark. And let's just see if I can bring this up really quickly. Because this is also something I remember when I was not even like 10 years old. Let's see. Yeah, this is a good one here. When I was 10 years old, my dad did like his research on this thing. And ultimately, when you're looking at the barcodes, it already is 666. When you analyze these numbers, as you can see right here, we have a 6, and that is these two skinny lines. All barcodes are actually framed with two skinny lines on either side and one right in the middle. So it already has 666 in it. And this is basic barcode. But that's it. You're already subject to the mark. And that is that. So come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her judgments. Come out of her, my people. Do not receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she has filled, fill to her double. And like it says here, for by your pharmakia were all nations deceived. And in closing, we are going to close with this. Happy shall he be that takes and dashes your little ones against the stones. As the oath said, that's what they're going to do. They're going to do that. They're going to, kill fetuses throughout the period of the kings. Check it out. They have ripped up the women with child of Gilead that they might enlarge their border. So, yeah, guys. Judgment. You know what? Yahweh is not mocked. And, if you follow my reasoning sessions, you know what that name literally embodies. It's that cycle of justice. It's that cycle of justice. And, yeah, it is happening, because this is the oracle of Nahum. When Nineveh, or the capital of the Assyrian Empire, was overthrown, the chariots raged in the streets. They shall, by the way, the Hebrew verb tense doesn't have a future tense, there's either a continuous tense, as in it is happening, or it is yet to be completed. And then there's the past tense, which has already been completed. So it can be read present tense as well. The chariots rage in the streets. They jostle each other, one against another in the broadways. They shall seem like torches. They shall run like lightnings. And it talks about the same. See, she is empty, void, and waste. Woe to the bloody city, full of lies and robbery. The prey departs not. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. That's the harlot sitting on the beast on the 7 hills. 7 hills. Well, we have the Quirinial, the Palatine, the Capitoline, Aventine. Yeah. Check it out. But anyway, you can tell who we're talking about, right? The empire never died. It just morphed and changed their garments for religious costumes. But check it out. Judgment is not... It's an inevitability, is what I'm trying to say. It's not impossible. It's not forsaken. Look at this. The horseman lifts up the bright sword and the glittering spear. There's a multitude of slain and a great number of carcasses, and there's none end of their corpses. They stumble upon the corpses. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. You also shall be drunken. Talking about adrenochrome, man. I'm just going to say it straight up because it also talks about that right here. Where is it? In her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. What are they doing with all their blood? If you go up here, it says that she was drunken with blood. Anyway, that's basically it. That's basically it. And we can see that. Actually, yeah, right here. Boom. Drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Yep. Where else? What else does it say here? Talking about Mystery Babylon the Great. And you want a really good read. I have it right here. Give me 1 sec, guys. Actually, 2 really good reads. Babylon Mystery Religion explains how the Catholic ideas of Jesus and Mary and all of that stuff are not even biblical, but they come as a, they come through, you have the fish hat, Ea or Dagon. Dagon in Mesopotamian, that's Ea. You have all of this stuff, the mother and child, like Madonna and child. That's not biblical. That comes straight out of the Babylonian system. And the Babylonian system infiltrated every single, basically, religion in the world. See, mother and child worship. This is a very well written article or book. This is by Ralph Woodrow. I keep wanting to say Wilson, but that's not his name. Ralph Woodrow. That's his name. Very good book. And another very good book on the same line, Alexander Hislop's The Two Babylons. Very, very good work. The papal worship proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife. And this is also a very good book. All with, let's see this. You can see it's got all its references, all the pictures, Egypt, everything. So when we realize the fleece that was pulled over our eyes and how a lot of that stuff is controlled opposition when it comes to, like stuff in the New Age and stuff. A lot of it is controlled opposition, but they're half-truths. That's the only reason why people go for it in the first place, is because they're half-truths. And they're explaining the nature of things in a way where, it makes sense. I was talking to somebody at the rally today, and they're talking about energy healing and how, it works. There's something that's going on, but the half-lie is to pervert the explanation of how it works. And that's why I teach what I teach. It's because when we really see the methodology behind all of that stuff, we realize, like, where the real power is, where the real, methods, how we can really manifest these things on a different level. Really embody that which Christ came to bring us into. And, it's the whole book, guys. The whole book. The whole book. You can see this is a very well used book. It's been with me since I was, I don't know, very little. But anyway, all of this is talking about manifesting, being our fullest beings, our fullest selves, living our destiny. That's what it's all about. But, churchianity doesn't want you being who you're here to be. They want you to be, a good sheep. Attend church, give us money, keep us in business. And we're not going to tell you anything beyond that, because you might literally usher in the Messianic age, which, I'm actively doing. And I know you are too. So, that's what it's all about, guys. Be your fullest self. How can you sing the Lord's song in the strange land, in the land of the beast, in the land of man? We're not living in a strange land. We're living in the kingdom of heaven. That is why the world has created this split. And we are on one side of the split. The rest of people are on the other side of the split. And it's all good. It's all good. I mean, at the end of the day, justice is served. And everybody is responsible for their own destiny. Everybody's responsible for their own destiny. So don't feel guilt just because someone else is not understanding things, or you can't convince them otherwise. Man, sow those seeds. Do whatever you can, but you're not responsible for their decisions. You're just responsible for sharing truth, warning them of what you know, letting them make their own decisions, guys. And it's hard when they're loved ones, but spend more time being who you're here to be rather than trying to get them to be who they're here to be. Because when you're yourself, at least they have a mirror to look at and say, whoa, I could do that. Why are they so abundant? Why are they so peaceful? Why are they manifesting such synchronicities and literally, impossibilities? What do they have that I don't have? Then their curiosity will be perked. And that's where the real convincing comes in. So, I got pretty deep in this episode, haven't I? I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go back and maybe watch some of this stuff if you feel like, because some really heavy stuff was shared, which I didn't plan, and probably I'm going to go back and watch some of this stuff too. But I love you guys. Stick in there, because Source has got this. We got this when we tap in with Source and manifest the life that we don't deserve anything less than. We deserve our wildest dreams, our greatest potential, the utopia that we know we've come here to live in. Literally, imagine utopia. What does that look like to you? That's what you deserve. That's it. And probably more than that, because you're imagining with your ego memories whatever's been downloaded through your senses. But tap into that heart and you could probably see some even greater potentials as potentials. We are victorious in Christ, in Source, in that Logos that was raised to the right hand of Source Creator Father God. And in that seat of authority, we command the beast where to go. Under our feet, baby. Under our feet. With that, close with the sound of victory that brought the walls of Jericho down. Shalom, my friends. Shalom.